there's two like key words I think that I would say make the biggest impact for a remote team. One is, it's not a word, it's a phrase. It's information, syncing information, um, which is basically knowing how you can get the information you need and the most up-to-date version of the information you need at any time. Basically being able to communicate with people. You have none of the social cues in a remote setting that you do in an office. So you can't just look over and see that someone's stressed out or busy or available. You can't just call a meeting. You can't just tap someone on the shoulder and ask them for something. You can do a digital version of these with group chat and stuff, but you don't get any of the social cues that make that communication richer. And if you are trying to find information that is helpful, it's a bit more of a treasure hunt than when you're in an office setting. You can just ask someone. And so, the first thing is having the worst thing you can do is not have all of the information you need or want in order to make a decision or to do, solve a problem. So making sure that everyone on the team knows a single source of truth for the most up-to-date version of important information. So basically what this boils down to, and I'll send you guys some specific stuff on like kind of how to put action around that. But what you don't want to do is have important information in email threads, because those are harder to find. You want to have important information in either group documents or in chat threads that are labeled like marketing materials or those sorts of things. So that's the first one. That's kind of the practical one. I think the more interesting one is about trust. So working together takes a lot of trust in general. Working together when remotely, because you don't have as much humanization, you don't see each other as much, it becomes harder to trust the little things, or trust that people know what they need to know in order to help you out, that sort of thing. And the thing about trust is that most of the time, this is actually, I think, a tip that's pretty helpful for recruiting specifically. There are three things that psychologists have found lead to people trusting each other. And they are competence or ability. So you trust someone who you believe is capable of doing something. So really relevant if you're, a resume is basically showing people, hiring managers, you can trust me because I can do this skill, I'm competent. The second is integrity. If someone is very competent, but doesn't have integrity, if they lie, if they don't do what they say they'll do, then you won't trust them. And then the third is benevolence. And this one is actually, I think, the most interesting and the most important, especially from a teamwork standpoint, but it's also, I think, really important once again in hiring and recruiting, is if someone is extremely competent and they always do what they say they will do, but you don't believe that they have your best interests at heart, you will not trust them. This is what I call the Genghis Khan problem. Genghis Khan was great at conquering, and he always did what he said he would do. One of his rules actually was, if you lie to one of your people, the penalty is death. But you wouldn't trust him because you don't believe that he has your best interest in mind. So that's the most extreme example. But if you think about it, someone who you don't believe is going to be benevolent to you, you don't care how good they are at something, you're not going to trust them. And so in a team setting, especially in a remote setting, we need to trust each other, that we got each other's backs, that like we're working and doing the right things when we don't see each other all day long. And so what people often do is they increase the communication, they increase the monitoring in order to make sure, and they increase kind of the hand-holding, the micromanaging, in order to make sure that they can trust that people are doing the right things. That's really about integrity and competence. And really, if you do believe in your team, those are not the things you should focus on. The thing that falls apart the most is the benevolence thing. If you really want to feel confident in your team, you need to be able to feel confident that they are going to treat each other well, even if they make mistakes, even if they have lapses of integrity. And so the thing to focus on in a remote team setting is making sure that everyone knows that you care, and doing the little things that add up to a belief in each other's benevolence. So when your interests potentially diverge, your colleague knows that you are going to do the right thing for them or the right thing for the team, even if you could do something that benefited you. So that's what benevolence is about. I'll send a specific thing on that. But but really from a remote team, you know, benevolence, trust building standpoint, this is about checking in with each other, not just on work, but on how you're doing. This is about sharing feelings. And, you know, in many ways, it's about being able to open up and trusting people with what's going on in your life, uh, knowing that they will reciprocate and that you're not going to use that information for, you know, against them or for ill. Um, but there's a bunch of other things. So I'll send a specific thing that I have about breaking down how to, in a remote team setting, show that you care in a way that makes people relax more on these other, you know, not needing to check in constantly and micromanage or, you know, worry about what's going on with people because you aren't worried about whether they have the team's